Welcome to another edition of Who's Better Baseball, the podcast where we answer a simple question on each show. Who's better at baseball? I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein, managing editor, justbaseball.com, and I'm writing an article right now about Shohei Ohtani and how he's not just the best player in baseball this year, he's the best hitter in baseball. And you look at the numbers. If you look at qualified hitters, he's leading the league right now in WRC+. If you're not familiar what WRC plus is, it's weighted runs created plus. It's a stat that measures hitters based on a league average of 100. And Shohei Ohtani this year has a 173 WRC plus. He's been 73% better than your league average hitter. Now, if you expand this beyond just qualified hitters, you do have Aaron Judge and Corey Seager who have better WRC pluses this year. Aaron Judge 188, Seager 187. If there is a hitter in baseball that's better than Shohei Ohtani this year in particular, just in general, it's Aaron Judge, obviously. What Judge did last year is so special. That's why he won the MVP over Ohtani, despite the fact that Ohtani's a two-way player. But what we just saw since the month of June and even before that from Shohei Ohtani, what he's doing currently, what could continue for a guy that is clearly at his athletic peak. He's 28 years old. He is as good as he'll probably be in his career, but this peak could extend for a long period of time. This could be a 5-year run where this guy is just athletically at this point where he is a dog on the mound and a beast in the box. What he's done over his last 19 games is beyond video game stuff, okay? You're looking at a 403 average, so he's Luis Ariz, a 500 on base percentage, a slug over 1,000. Okay, so his OPS is over 1,500 right now. He's hit 12 home runs in his last 19 games. That's 88 plate appearances where he's done that. 25 runs batted in. WRC plus is 295, which means he's 195% better than your league average hitter. Granted, a lot of guys can get hot. But you know what it looks like when Fernando Tatis gets hot over that same span? It's 5 home runs. It's 16 RBIs. It's 8 stolen bases. It's a 356 average, a 453 on base, 712 slug. Still great. Still an OPS well over 1,200. Still a 215 WRC plus. But it's not a 295 WRC plus. It's not an isolated power of 611. 611. His isolated power. It's ridiculous, the statistics that he has put up lately. And, you know, along with all of the home runs that he's hit, right? You have 6 doubles and a triple. So you have, in a 19-game span, 19 extra base hits. He has been on a different planet lately. And it comes to a point with Shohei that, you know, this is what you expect. You expect him to do the unexpected. You expect him to be that special. His walk rate in this span is 17. Strikeout rate is 18.2%. You look at the season and what Shohei Ohtani is doing. It's looking like his MVP campaign, but better. Okay? His MVP campaign, he hit 257. This year it's at 300, so he's 43 points better. His on-base percentage was 372. This year is 384, so not a drastic difference there. Slug was at 592. This year it's at 632, so 40 points higher. But here's the big difference. That season, when Shohei Ohtani was 26 years old, he hit 46 home runs and drove in 100 while stealing 26 bags. He struck out nearly 30% of the time, 29.6%. Last year, he cut that to 24.2%, and he wasn't as good of a hitter last year. He had 12 less home runs than he did in his MVP campaign. The WRC plus dropped by 9 points. He went from 151 to 142, and that could just be an adjustment of the league. You know, the league was better maybe offensively in 2022 than 2021, but you still look at the stats. The slug was down from 592 to 519. Again, I just mentioned the lack of, or not the lack of, he still had 34 bombs, but in comparison to the 46 home run season, the lack of homers, and the OBP dipped 16%, even though the batting average raised 16%. You're now looking at a complete hitter. You're now looking at a guy that is coming up on, you know, he's past 2,500 career plate appearances at the big league level. He has figured out how to hit big league pitching and how to feast against big league pitching and just to tap into that ridiculous God-given talent that he has. Okay, because there's just not a single person in probably the history of the human race who has been more built to play the game of baseball than Shohei Ohtani. He is just that gifted. And if you look at the progression, right, his rookie season, it's 22 home runs in 114 games. He was a 149 WRC plus that year, but he still struck out, 27.8% of the time. 2019 rolls around, offense dips a little bit comparatively, 120 WRC plus, home runs at 18 instead of 22, and similar amount of games played, 106 games played. OBP dipped, everything else. Has a bad 2020 in the shortened season. For whatever that is worth, doesn't really matter. Then you get the MVP campaign. And then last year, there was an argument to be made that he was a better pitcher than he was a hitter. This year, he's been a better hitter than a pitcher. Maybe that's just the thing with Shohei. MVP season, better hitter than a pitcher. 2022, runner-up. He's a better pitcher than a hitter. This year, better hitter than a pitcher, but then you still go to the pitching side of things, and it's not like Shohei Ohtani is bad. Guy's still unbelievable. Pitching to a 3.29 ERA, 11.52 strikeout per nine, a little bit less than last year, but not by much. 82 innings pitched, 14 starts. The walks are up this year pretty drastically, 3.84 per nine compared to 2.39 per nine. And it's given up more home runs, 1.21 compared to 0.76. But with Shohei, that just means, okay, room for improvement. His FIP this year is at 407 compared to last year was at 2.40. But you look at the expected FIP, 3.62, a little bit better than his actual FIP. Last year, the expected FIP was 2.65. There's room for improvement. There's room for Shohei to be better on the mound. But that's the scary thing because he's still been an ace. He's still been awesome. And he's been the best hitter in baseball when you remove Judge from the equation. Now, you want to compare Judge to Ohtani right now? Maybe Aaron Judge is better. Maybe. But the crazy thing is, you look at the comparison, Judge strikes out 29.6% of the time. Still, Shohei's 21%. Now, that's not to say that the strikeouts make everything. Okay, Judge walks more, over 16% of the time. His OBP is 20 points higher. Okay, so, and, he's gotten 110 less plate appearances, only 5 home runs shy of Shohei. If you give Judge 110 plate appearances, he's going to hit 10 home runs. And so he'd probably be pacing the league in homers. But right now, who's pacing the league in home runs? Shohei Ohtani. And if this heater he's been on since, May 30th, where he's been at this 295 WRC plus over a 19-game span, if this heater continues and you give me, another 20-game sample size where the guy hits 12 home runs, he's going to be sitting at, 36 home runs by, a little bit after the All-Star break. The Angels are in an interesting position, right? Because it's a team that we knew going into the season had this big Shohei Ohtani question. What were they going to do with Shohei? Could they hang in the race enough that they would want to keep Shohei and not trade him while they can? Right now, they're 8 games over 500, largely because of his play. They're 5 games out of first place in this division, but they are right there in the wild card race. I don't know if the Angels can win the AL West, but I think they can make a wild card, and I think it's worth it to try to make that push and to go on a run in the postseason. Because for one, if nothing else, get Shohei Ohtani into October where he can win a wild card series by hitting a couple big home runs. We saw what he did in the World Baseball Classic on the biggest stage, thriving. Get him into a shortened tournament, and even if Shohei Ohtani gets $600 million from another team, and that's not even crazy at this point with the way he's produced, both sides, and somebody blows you out of the water, there's every chance that you got a postseason run out of Shohei Ohtani that will be unforgettable to your fans. And honestly, if he does go on that type of a run, if he does lead the Angels to a World Series this year, because he's that good, because you still have that guy Mike Trout, and if you get the two of them in October, like we've been saying ever since they came together, you think, oh my God, this team can go all the way. If that happens with Shohei Ohtani, and you match any offer on the table, there's every chance that you keep the guy. And if you're the Angels, you're thinking about the future of your franchise. While, yes, you could, even with him as a rental, get more than the Padres got for Juan Soto potentially, which was a franchise-altering, or not the Padres got, excuse me, the Padres gave up that the Nationals got, which was a franchise-altering package that was able to allow them to reset and jumpstart a rebuild. But no player that you get back, even if they hit their absolute best outcome, is going to sniff the production that you would get out of Shohei Ohtani if you could lock him up. So if you're the Angels, it's obvious what you got to do. You got to go all in this season. Continue to be aggressive with your promotions as they have been. Be aggressive at the trade deadline to add the pieces you need, whether that's some more starting pitching, whether that's another arm in the bullpen, whether that's getting another bat, however you have to round out that roster. Make a push this year, and then basically give him a blank check. Give him the 14 years, $700 million contract, which right now on the surface it seems ridiculous. But I have no idea what is or is not ridiculous when it comes to a guy that is as unprecedented as Shohei Ohtani. The stretch he's on right now has put him into that conversation of no longer just being the best player in baseball, where he was right there with Aaron Judge because of the fact that he did both. Not as good of a hitter, but a really good hitter who's an unbelievable pitcher. Now, you can begin to have the conversation that stretches beyond that doesn't get you into that weird, how do we analyze Shohei Ohtani because he does both and it's so rare and he's one of a kind. Simply put, Shohei Ohtani might be the best hitter in baseball. And if you're the best hitter in baseball, you're an ace to boot, I don't even want to think about how much money it's going to cost for a team to sign him this offseason. But until then, let's just enjoy the incredible show that's going on in Anaheim. Anyway, that's going to be all for this edition of Who's Better Baseball. Make sure you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Check out all the great written content we have coming your way at justbaseball.com.